I'm guessing by now you have seen the responses of Frogan, Casey, Tron, and Denims. Let's get into it together, shall we?
A better you starts today.
I'll start by saying, as somebody who has been sued before as a content creator, it's not fun. I do empathise with them greatly for it. It sucks. It really does suck. But I do have a little bit of advice for them that I think has probably started to sink in at this point. But man, when I saw their streams afterwards, and granted, I am not the greatest expert on the American legal system, not the greatest expert on the Australian legal system, but I do hazard a guess that it's probably not a good idea to go online and start a, yay, we're just going to have a subathon. Oh, thank you so much for the donation. Ethan Sharks. That's... Guys, this is something that YouTubers really don't understand, and I understand because I'm the same thing, just a grown man child. But if you look, how do I put this? Twitch and reality are not the same thing. They're really not compatible at all. The virtual world and the real world are not compatible. That is not what you do at a court case. And I know from basic experience, because the same thing happened to me on the many, many instances that I've been dragged to court and been sued for defamation. It took me a long time to not walk up to the lawyer and then drop the fake hand while giving him the summons notice and be like, oh, my hand fell off, which is something that I did. And I'm very proud of that on a performative level. But this is the whole thing. It's just like, not everything is theatre. Not everything is just like a mad clapback. The courts... Look, everything that you are saying is absolutely going to be used against you in a court. You don't do that. I know from experience. And mine turned out well. Right? My case turned out well, but the reason that you don't want to be doing it, even if it does turn out well for you, and again, I'm not an expert on the law in the United States, and anybody that is confidently saying, oh yeah, there's no case at all, or anybody that is confidently saying, no, this is absolutely in the bag, let's wait. I honestly think that it's very, very naive to say that you know the outcome of a court case before it goes to court, because let's be honest, the lawyers don't. They'll tell you that they do, because of course their entire job is, oh yeah, we'll take them to the cleaners. Of course they're going to say that. But, the outcome is never going to be what you predicted. And I think that the outcome on a case really does determine. No lawyer will ever say this, and there'll be a bunch of lawyers in here that'll be profusely smug towards me. And they're probably right, because they are, this is their job. But I think that a lot of it is, come on, you're being a bit car salesman about it too, aren't you? You slimy little ambulance chasers. You really are. There is an element you have to agree, even if you are a lawyer. Please agree with me on this. It matters on the judge that you draw. Isn't that a terrifying thought? It also matters if they hear your case before or after lunch. I mean, that's just a statistical fact. We know for a fact that there are more convictions pre-lunch than after lunch, because they're just getting hungry and pissed off. And that's 10 years in jail. That happens because we're all human beings at the end of the day. They might be much more intelligent, much more knowledgeable human beings than us. They're still human beings, and they're still related to the same cognitive biases. I know from being in the court case, right? Like, okay, look, I got off, but there was a bunch of things that I should have gotten that were rewarded in my favor that weren't. And I swear to God, to this day, it is because the judge liked the defense lawyer and had more of a personal relationship, with the prosecution lawyer, had more of an affinity with the prosecution lawyer, more history than with the defense lawyer. Still to this day, I think that. And I've got people on good legal authority that agree with me. But then again, obviously, I would say that, wouldn't I? Because this is a whole thing. It's like, look, humans don't stop being monkeys when they're in court, right? Like, the little monkey is just sitting there with a wig on. And the wig is there to basically make you forget that he is a monkey just like you. And there's monkeys just screeching at each other. That's pretty much what's happening. With a bunch of orderly things. That, yes, they remember their lines and it's all like very orderly and there's scripts and the right things that they're saying. But a lot of it is kind of just them bamboozling you with a bunch of Latin words and phrases. So you don't understand what's going on and you feel like an idiot. And look, there's definitely elements of this. I am not egotistical enough to think that I don't know, that I knew everything that was happening in that court case. But I obviously knew a lot more about how court functions from the many court cases that I've been in. from being an outside observer, and you start to get a bit familiar with the environment. So I'll tell you a couple of things that just absolutely matter. The judge that you draw, the relationship that the judge has with the lawyer, these things are huge. Don't let them... Just know that in a lot of cases, yes, okay, the law kind of confines what the ruling can be, but there's a lot of different things that can happen in between the ruling, and the ruling can be very, very different to, you know, like, and again, every law, every case is kind of just setting precedent for other cases. So these things matter a lot, you know? The outcome of how severely you're punished can be determined a lot on basically whether they like the lawyer or not. So there's, what I'm saying is there's a bunch of random things that happen there. There's also just, look, the way that courts work is just sort of an Alice in Wonderland inverse reality of how society works. In society, you can sit there and you can basically say something like, but he is a fat liar. And then in court, they'll sit there and they'll say, yeah, but you didn't express it in this very specific way that is tailored to this thing that was said in the 1600s. And we're going to determine the way that this was said in the 1600s to the internet now. That shit happens all the time. You just go in a time warp endlessly. Oh, yeah, we'll bring up this British law from Shakespeare's England and we'll try and insert that into YouTube. So what I'm saying is, shut the fuck up. Stop saying things on the internet. Please. You know, like, I mean, obviously H3 is in a completely different position. H3, I think, is probably in a much better position unless he gets countersued, which could be possible depending on how much they raise, I guess. But he's in the position to say whatever he likes. But if you are getting sued, this is just one of the things that you need to learn. It is probably not a good idea to go on stream for 9 hours and talk about it. Anyway, now that I've gotten that all out of my chest, I'd just like to say that as well. Regardless of what happens, regardless of whether they win the case, regardless of whether they lose the case, I think that this is a good lesson for everybody out there now, yeah? Which is a couple of things that, don't you think that this is absolutely the dynamic of what got them to that point? Because I know as a creator, this happens all the time. Your audience will just egg you on into a certain... Like, you have to fight very hard against your audience endlessly. You have to be very conscious of the fact that you're not doing this. You know the phrase audience capture? I suppose this is just a self-help lesson for people that want to be a YouTuber or a streamer. But one thing that you definitely do not want to be ever is victim of audience capture. And I think that that's something that we can all agree H3 is probably not a victim of. Like, he's done very distinct things that you can point out in his career where he's just been like, no, screw you. I'll say bye to like 1 million people. I'll get a bunch of these drama videos done about me about how H3's changed and he's very disappointing. And he's doing that because that's what he is. That's what he thinks about himself. He's true to himself. I think that what happens a lot of the time, though, especially when you're starting up, is you get an audience. Your audience, it's small. Your audience wants you to do something, and so they keep pushing you in that direction, and so you just keep doing it. And because you're in that environment, that little bubble of people saying, yes, yes, keep doing this, you still do this. It's not because you think it's right or whatever, or even they don't think it's right. It's kind of just everyone's caught up in the moment going, yeah! And so you just, you know, drive into a wall. I think that happens a lot. So I think that that's something that you have to remember for the rest of your life as well, is that, look, we are all in these little teeny bubbles. We are. Even when you go to the court, they will be in their little teeny bubble. And they will be thinking that that version of reality is acceptable. And you are as well. And I think that there's nothing that you can really do about that for the rest of your life. The only thing that you can do, at the very least, is have the humility to accept that you are in a bubble. You are in a little mini cult. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're working in finance. It doesn't matter if you're working in construction. It doesn't matter what. It's just like you are around a certain bunch of people, and there's going to be certain behaviors that are acceptable within that specific environment that weren't going to be acceptable in another environment, and vice versa. That's what happens. And the only way to opt out of that is to be a YouTuber. But then, obviously, again, that's what I'm saying. No, you don't. You don't get to opt out. Because then your audience is just like, behave like this. And you have to make a very concerted effort to say no. And I think that in the end of the day, you are always going to be rewarded more for just being like, no, I'm sticking to my guns, up yours, to your own audience. And be very happy to make enemies of it. and see them out the other door. Why? Because you will gain something in return that is worth so much more, which is that you have convictions. You have strength, and people respect that at the end of the day. I think at the end of the day, people respect someone that sticks to their guns. You know, they're not going to respect them. And this has happened all throughout my career. There has been points where people have just been like, I'm sorry, you Chan, you fuck you and stuff. And it's just because like they went into a certain period where I was arguing a certain point. And then I started thinking about it from a different angle. And then I started arguing something else. Oh, fuck you, you Chan. And they just move away. But who has credibility at the end of the day? The person that sticks to their convictions. And you know what's even sadder, rightly or wrongly? Rightly or wrongly. Because it's better than being someone that vacillates, that changes with the tides and throws tomatoes. I mean, how pathetic is it to be somebody that is just a fair weather friend? Which is really any YouTuber that does that just rides the tide. Oh, everyone's clapping me for this, I'm just going to do that. You know, if you are one of those people that just rides the tide, whatever it is, I'm just going to go with that. No one respects you. They're going to give you the claps while that tide is going that. But always remember, a tide goes out again. And then you'll just be left stranded. I see it happen to content creators all the time. Now, look, I don't know enough about these creators, to be honest. Like, I've never really watched Denims or... Actually, what was the other chick's name? I did watch a bit of Casey Tron, and I've got to say, she's hilarious. She's really funny. She's actually one of my favorite Twitch streamers that I've ever come across. She's hilarious. She's real, intentionally and unintentionally. Frogan, never watched him. So I don't really know if they're sticking to convictions or not. This is generally, though, for a direct message, which is that you follow that in your life. You are one of these people that is just endlessly looking for approval. You will never, ever, ever be respected, ever. People like people who are in a position to give approval. They respect that. They don't respect people that are seeking approval. They respect people who are giving it. Anyway, if you like that, make sure that you sign up to Jordan Shanks, because I give out 3 extra videos that are actually on self-help, as opposed to just, you know, like... doing something that I've said many times on this channel you shouldn't do, which is watch slop. But I'm kind of just using it to just, you know, like, yeah. Anyway, let's do self-help, you know the trick. And so, anyway, that's just pure self-help right there. And it's good self-help. It's the best self-help. It's the self-help that I've been reading all of that week, so you don't have to read any of it. And you get that. And over again, what do you get? My life has changed exponentially because I signed up to the private members. So make sure that you sign up to that. Make sure that you come out to any of the live shows. I think I've got one in Melbourne. I'm going to get some more done in Sydney soon. The one in Perth was incredible. That one is going to be up soon on Friendly Geordies Live. There's other seminars that you can buy there. I'll see you next time.